All right. Hi, good evening, Danitza. How are you? Is everything okay?
Hi, Ottilie. Yeah, everything's okay.
Great. That's good to know. Let's begin, please, with today's class. We have some things to check. We're going to do that first, and then we go and we cover. Yeah. Can you hear me well, Danitza?
Yes.
Okay. So I was saying, right, we have some things to check. We check that briefly and we continue because we have to check two more verbs that are very simple. And we go to the next lesson, and we're also going to try to see one extra thing for writing. That is actually one thing that we didn't see in detail, that is the colon. We're going to practice the colon now, all right? And then we go to the transitional words. We're going to use the transitional words in a correct way. But here, let's read what you got, please, Danitza. You got some examples with have, and you have ideas with fanboys to see if they are going to be correct. All right, so let's read them, please, aloud so that I can analyze as you are reading.
Okay. The example we have is she always has a guard, a garden there.
Ah,
Do
gardener, gardener.
gardener do her garden. Yes. Yes, that's the only example because I was I don't know, wondering if there is lesson. I think I really forgot about it. About the extension of dresser. I know that there is a word that describes this kind of words that when you add that the kind of extensions that make, I don't know, the people who performs an action or identify a kind of people that performs specific actions. You understand me?
Yes, no, yeah, no, yes, we don't have, I believe that we don't have a specific lesson like that. It will be doing some extra research. If I find a good web page, all right, or a good place in which they give this information, right, occupations, professions, or how you can change some nouns, right, or verbs into these occupations, I'm going to send that information to you, right? Right now, I don't have anything in mind. I just learned also that by myself. I've never been told or taught that in detail. I believe that it's weird to find that as part of a lesson, but I'm going to take a look, all right, at the net, and I'm going to let you know if I find something specific. But no, there is not, at least in the lessons that we cover in Pearson or I took a look, there's not a specific lesson for that.
Okay, thank you.
All right. No, no worries. We're going to check that separately. So just the first part, it seems to be great. Remember, but I want to see how you change this to different tenses. And also, you're going to change not only the tense, but you're going to give me a good expression for that tense. The first one, of course, is simple present, right? How do you change this to, and it's possible, to present continuous?
Mm,
Huh? The only thing that is going to be modified is always the
okay.
verb have. That is has in this case. That has to be in the continuous form. And of course, you have to use now an expression at the end. Okay, it's better if you place the expression at the end that justifies why you are using the continuous tense. So what do you say? And you can eliminate words if you believe also because of the present continuous.
Okay. Mm, uh, she she's having a gardener do doing no do do her
Do,
garden.
always do.
Yes, do her garden all this week. I don't know.
Yes, if it's going to be a long process, right? Because the garden is very big, and the gardener has to go not only once but twice, three times. then your example is correct, right? She's having a gardener do her garden this week. Perfect. But if it's something that is happening right now and it's going to finish soon, you can also say she is having, right, a gardener do her garden right now. It's also plausible and correct. Okay, so both are correct. That's perfect. That's one. That's present continuous. What about past continuous? But remember that with past continuous, you have to show me an interrupter or something that happens afterwards to justify this.
Okay. Um, she was having a gardener do her gardener when her husband knocked the door. When her husband knocked the door.
Yes, knocked. Exactly, knocked the door. Yes. Something that happened or interrupted, right? In this case, something happened. Great. What about the past? No, sorry, the present perfect.
Mm, mm, she have a hat.
But she have or she has? She has had or she have had?
She has hat.
Uh-huh.
She has got a gardener do her gardener. Mm, mm, just mm, I don't know. Recently, I don't know. I know that that's a word that
Okay.
is.
Yes, you can say recently, lately. It is possible. With the present perfect, it is possible. You can mention number of times, right? You can say 3 times, twice. You can say only before, or you can say right since, I don't know, last week, or you can say for a specific period of time, right? So all of those work. Any expression for the present perfect is going to be good. Now, a future, all right, the last one, future, any type of future that it can be simple or be going to.
Mm, okay. She's going to have. She's going to have a gardener do her garden. Um, next week.
Yes, correct. So again, I'm just making you practice that because we can use these ideas, all right, the causative verbs, sorry, in almost any tense. Of course, it depends, right, on the idea, if it's going to make sense. It depends on that, all right? But generally speaking, we have that freedom. All right, and I just wanted you to see that. But again, I have no observations in that matter. We have two more verbs to cover that, again, to me, as I told you, they are not exactly causative verbs in the way these verbs work because they are more, I don't know, related to something that you let do, that you do even. So it's not a cause anymore, but they are part of the lesson and we have to cover those two. But I don't know if you have any questions about this. And if you have mainly, or if it is clear for you, Danitza, the difference between make, have, and get in terms of causative verbs, let me know, please, so that we can go to the examples down below.
Uh, no, no tengo. I don't have pregunta. Oh,
All right,
sorry,
Danitza, you're mixing, right? You're using some Spanish.
sorry.
Okay, no problem, right? Okay, that's good. Good. It's good that you don't have preguntas. All right. So let's replace the examples that you have down below with the families.
Okay. Mm, yeah, he thought he was the one who was saying goodbye after the call after all these years, but she was already gone, like a bird that flew away.
Okay, great, great. I like this one. I like this interrupter a lot. It's perfect. Okay, acting so-called, clarifying that as an interrupter. Then after all these years, that's the last part of your idea time. So this is perfect. Okay, this is a very good sentence, and it's also a good justification why you're using a semicolon over here, right? Because now you have the fanboy, but she was already gone, like a bird that flown away. But if you say that, remember, you need auxiliary that has flown away or
Oh,
directly flew, right? Flew, one of those elements. But yes, if you say was already gone, perhaps it is better that you say this in simple past, all right? And if I'm not wrong, they are going to suggest that flew. Okay, but yes, actually, let me, yeah.
yes, I think it's flu.
Next, yes.
Mm-hmm.
It is. You can use the other one, but it is better in this case to say flew because you can say has flown away, but mixing something in simple past then past continue. Oh, sorry, then present perfect is not going to be the best option. So yes, there you go. This was a great example. It is a very good example, and this is the logic that you have to follow to use semicolon with fanboys. If you don't have a situation like this, you don't use semicolon. Yeah, you simply use what? The comma, right? We don't use semicolon with fanboys, only with these exceptions. Then let's read the other one, please. Danny, it's a number two.
I think the idea was right, but I didn't complete the sentence. It's
Mhm.
just like the structure. With only 23 years old, she expected him to treat her better. They met each other in high school, and since then, they have been together.
Right?
Um,
Yes, in this one, yeah, and actually the idea is good, but also here, right, it wouldn't be necessary to use semicolon, right? Like that, it's good. Actually, the idea that you have is correct. We are not using semicolon, right? We need one more example with semicolon. But in this case, you're already using a period. And because you're using a period, now this is a fresh new idea. And this is a short idea. Then you have the comma, all right, and you have since then they have been together. That's perfect. And even here, remember, if you want to be very, let's say, strict, all right, following the grammar rules, you're going to use another comma over there, right? But even though you're using that comma, here this comma works perfectly. All right, so again, it is good. My only thing would be that you're not using the semicolon. To use the semicolon, you don't have to give this breathing over here, this period, because that period now makes you, right, able to use the comma, right, and not to use a semicolon. But in general, it is good. Let me see what's the main correction that they have here for you. Okay, yes, it is going to be better, that one. But in terms of the colon and the semicolon over here, I don't know if you have any questions because this is good. This was another observation. And the explanation here is that you don't have something that is confusing, so the comma works very good over there. If you want to use a semicolon, you will have to try to connect this first idea with only one clarification at the end, all right? Or just like that could be. It can be a longer idea with an interrupter if you want, or a last clarification with a comma, and then here you will have to use the semicolon, right? But like that, it's working good. So that's it. We still have to work one more idea with a found and with a semicolon. I don't know if you have any comments or questions.
no, I don't have
Okay, good.
comments.
So then, yeah, so this is going to be then the only one over here. All right, that one there. And this
Yes,
suggestion.
why at?
Remember that when you talk about something specific referring to
Oh, very
directions,
specific.
to,
Yes.
exactly, and also your age, right? So we at this age, I was this and that, right? So you are not with an age, you are at a specific age.
Okay. Okay.
All right, good.
Mhm.
There you go. Now, good. Again, only one. Okay, so you are missing one more example. Not now. Again, it can be for Friday. Like this. This to me, it's a very, very good example to show when to use a semicolon with fanboys, right? And I'm going to again mark them over there. So pay attention to what you're doing over there and try to apply the same here. You can modify this example in order to use this semicolon, but see how to do it, or you can give me one new idea. And also we are missing one more thing, but it's something we're going to practice later on. I'm going to let you know. Now, let's finish this up. We're only missing two verbs in Danitza. Um, Let me put this over here. Okay, that are going to be let and help. Let's read let, please.
Okay. Let. Allow someone to do something. Structure, subject plus let plus person let plus verb. Santa, she let her boyfriend go to the party. They will let their children play in the park. Sarah never lets anyone tell her what to do.
Okay, thank you. Right, so this is a very weak verb compared to the previous three. Of course, here you're still causing something, but indirectly because you're just allowing an action, right? You're
Mhm.
just permitting something, but it's not going to be a direct, right, influence on something. Again, you're just letting, but you're not producing that directly. But again, it's also considered a causative verb. Same logic. If you analyze this, it's the same as make, have, and get. Again, it's just that it's more related to something that you permit. Also use the base form, and it's absolutely the same. You can also use this in any tense. All right, now we're going to see help. We write some examples and we have to go to the next lesson. Help. Let's read this as well, please.
Okay. Give aid someone in doing something. Structure, subject plus help, present group plus verb. Base form or infinitive. Simple syllabus help me to do my homework. A cup of coffee in the morning helps me to wake up. My colleague helped me to write my CV.
Great, thank you. Now, aid is a direct synonym for help, right? Give aid means give help or help someone. All right, and again, this is also considered a causative verb, but again, to me, I wouldn't call it a causative verb, okay, because there's not a direct thing that you produce. But indirectly, if you're talking about third person, it can be, but in a more passive way, and actually you're doing something for someone. All right, so again, that's why it can be that the other one is causing you to do something for them. In that case, it can be understood, yes, understood as causative, perhaps. But again, this is, of course, the last one. If you give aid, it is also a type. Now, here, my piece of advice, you have the two options here, Danita. Remember, with make, you always use base form. With have, you always use base form. With get, you use infinitive. Right? With let, you use base form. And with help, you use to. You have the option of using to, infinitive and base form. But it is actually more natural in terms of help to use base form. Okay, Oliver helped me do my homework, helps me wake up, help me write my CV. It's more common, at least in speaking, that's something that you hear a lot. The infinitive form, it's not something that you hear that often. All right, but again, you have the two options here, Denise. But that's it. I believe that these two are easy to get. Here, you let someone do something, right? You can say, yesterday, I let you write, I don't know, complete some extra assignments. And here, help, right? I helped you, I don't know, right? What could it be? Understand the previous topic in a better way. But that's the idea, letting and helping. I don't know if you have questions about these two, so that we write a couple of examples to go to the lesson that we got to cover. Let me know, please.
No, I don't have.
All right. So to finish, please, let's try not to spend, more time than the one we need. We're going to write four examples, Danny. Two examples with let in two different tenses and two examples with help. All right, let's do it, please. We're going to have 3 minutes more or less, going to 4. So 37, 9:37, that's going to be the time at which we check the examples. All right, let's do it, please. We check at that time. All right, we're going to see how it is going. And well, let's see. Okay, good. Good. Let's finish that last one with help, at least one, and we check that one, please. And we have three done. All right, so let's try to finish that one, please, Itza, and we check in order to try to cover some. Yes, we're going to have the time to cover that one. Okay, so finish that one. Let's read the three that you got to see the details.
Okay. With Liv, she let her son travel around the world. They won't let him write the article, I know, the report about bribes, but they have the crowd. People use her knowledge about first. I
Uh-huh. First aid. Okay, yes,
first
yes, again, in general, it is good. You only have one spelling mistake here, right? It's going to be let, right, instead of let, right? So she let her son travel around the world. Great, yeah, yeah. Again, no observations, everything makes sense. With help, we have the two alternatives, right? Using infinitive or using base form, but using base form is again more natural, at least in speaking situations, according to my experience. But you have the two options. That's it. I don't know if you have any questions about this in general, then Danitza, so that we can go to the next presentation. Let me know, please.
Yes, I here I have a question, but I don't know why I have this question. Here, Patty help the crowd people. I mean, this is because I am using this causative verbs. That's why I use. But why will using?
That's actually directly related to grammar rules that don't have any sense. Then it's why? Because it's the same, you know, if you say, right, I enjoy playing or I like to play, right? Why don't we simply say I enjoy play? Because the translation is exactly the same. Or why don't we say I enjoy to play as well or play, right? But actually, there is no logical answer more than a cultural and grammatical rule that was established, I don't know by whom, right, and why. But I would only say that it's a direct rule because use has the same meaning as to use and has the same meaning as using, right? And in Spanish, it's exactly the same. The translation is exactly the same. But, all right, according to rules, with these verbs and after some objects and after some adjectives, we have these specifications, okay? So the only answer that I can give you is that that's the rule. According to the rule, when you use help with an object, you can only use the verb in two forms, that is infinitive and the base form, right? That's going to be the only possible explanation. With make and have, only the base form. That's the only alternative. To use and using, it means gerund and infinitive. They are going to be incorrect. Why? We don't know why. All right. It's something again that they fight a lot of in English as well as in Spanish, right? We have things that we understand because we are native English Spanish speakers, but they don't make sense. Okay, so that's what I wanted to explain. The rule that what's the form of the verb after specific verbs is not clear. It's just a rule that they got. Only the exceptions that we were learning before, then it's all right. After some verbs, the meaning is different if you use infinitive or if you use gerund. In that
Mhm.
case, it's the only situation in which that seems to be clear. All right. But in the rest of the cases in which you have this type of rule, it's just as that. All
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
Good. I don't know if you have anything else there. Let me know, please.
Yes. I don't know. Mm, Um, for example, in the second, I copied the example and I use guided.
Mhm.
Uh, in this case, I can use a gerund. I'm not sure
It
that verb
depends.
is
With
with
guide, you usually guide people on doing something or in doing something. Actually, the preposition just went off. But a guide is not a causative verb,
okay.
so
It's
we're not
not.
going to use. Uh-huh.
I know that, but if this is mm, you know, okay, maybe another verb. Mm, what I want to, establish something like that is that here, for example, I can use using something like that.
With a preposition. As I was saying, as I was telling you, you guide someone on doing something
Doing. Okay,
in
okay.
most of the
So,
cases. Mhm.
so here I can say to.
Yes, no, I mean, I'm giving you a general explanation. Of course, it depends. The verb you want, it's going to be with gerund, but again, you guide someone on doing something. All right, and the verb, of course, can be different. Okay, so Patty guided the crowded people on
Advice.
using. Uh-huh, it is like that.
Advice. Advice.
Advice is a that's another rule. Okay, advise, recommend, those are going to follow the subjunctive rule. The subjunctive rule is the base form as well. All right, then the subjunctive, if you use this in the subjunctive mode, for example, if you say the doctor recommends or advises, all right, you use also the base form over there. With that happens with verbs that give a type of suggestion, but in a strong way. If you believe that this is going to be a strong suggestion, again, usually you give it with professionals. But if you believe that Patty has that, sorry, that knowledge, that specific knowledge, you have to use base form again. Okay, so there are very specific things in terms of guide. Guide is not recommendation. Guide is not a causative verb. Guide is just a verb that can have an object, and guide is usually used with some prepositions. Okay, you guide someone in doing something or undoing something. In that case, you use prepositions and gerund. Then with other ones, remember you're going to use the infinitive. For example, when you are commanding or when you're giving orders, right? I want you to help me with this. I need you to establish that, right? I need you to fix that for me. Okay, but a and these causative verbs are close to giving commands, but not directly, because with want, with need, right? You're establishing, like, you're asking first, right? I need you to do this for me, please. And the person can say, okay, right? I want you to do this for me. And you say, okay, because you have to do it, right? But that's again like you're asking first. In that case, you're going to use infinitive. Okay, so let's set that clear. In that case, infinitive. In the case of something, of causing something directly, let's say in these causative verbs, right? I have you, I always have someone do this for me. I always make someone do that for me. You're not asking, you are establishing directly what you are producing on other people. All right, and what's the action that they do for you. In that case, you use the rules that you saw. With most of them, it is going to be the base form, except for get, that is going to be infinitive, and help, that you have the option, right, of using base form or infinitive. And when you have advice, recommend, and so on, when you have strong verbs of suggestions or recommendations, and mainly professionals over there, you use the base form there, and there we have an explanation, because that's the subjunctive form. Anytime you have the subjunctive form that it applies for strong suggestions, you have to use the base form. Even using the verb to be, you're going to say be. And that's actually something that was part of at the beginning of let me show you this, of the course. Because as long as you go deeper, right, in English, some of the things are just not going to make sense. And it's going to be pure grammar, and pure grammar in the sense of it has been established, it changed over the decades, over the years, and it's just because they transformed the language in that way. People started saying things like that, and they don't make any sense right now. Okay, but it started with strong rules that they don't have sense right now, but it is the way it is. For example, here, right, the teacher suggests, number 3, that he is, are, be, was, were on time. So what's the correct answer over there, right? Most people say is or was, or even were, because they say the subjunctive, right? But in the correct responses, in number 3, is that's subjunctive mood that we use to express desire, imagination, or strong suggestions. All right, and we always use the base form in that case. So it means that in number 3, the only correct answer is B. The teacher suggests that he be on time. Okay, not that he is on time, that he was on time, no, that he be on time, because that's again a piece of suggestion. And there you can say advises, suggests, recommends, but only again when it's strong. Okay, but those are the 3 elements that I have in mind right now, Danitza. But remember that most of the rules for what you use, if it's infinitive, if you say to go, or if you say going, or if you say go, is very, very subjectively established in English. And it's because people were speaking like that. And they made rules with what people were doing and the way with people were using those verbs. But again, you know that you have very, very unobjective, unexplained list of verbs that are followed by infinitives or gerunds. All right. In most of the cases, it's going to be like that. These are the only 3 cases in which I can give a short explanation. But for the rest of them, it's just memorizing, and they say, right, it's like that because it is like that. It's the way people has spoken or have spoken, sorry, and that's established in the grammar books. All right, I don't know if that helps at least to get an idea for when we use some elements, and also the idea that sometimes it's just going to be memorizing what's after that verb without a specific explanation. Let me know if you have questions or comments about that, please, Danita.
Thank you. I right now I don't have things structured in my mind, but I think I will make a review about this.
Yes, and no worries. Again, no, you right. That's of course first. It is my job, but again, this is always hard to explain because again, in Spanish we only say that in one way, but in English we have 3 ways of saying that same thing. That is what we call in Spanish the infinitive. Because what we call gerund, right, it's also a type of infinitive in Spanish. What we call the base form is also a type of infinitive in Spanish, and what we call infinitive is the infinitive in Spanish. So it's exactly the same, but in English they decided to have 3 ways of saying that, but no one knows why. Because the translation again and what they communicate with those 3 ideas is the same. Okay, that's why I give my piece of recommendation over there, Danitza. It's just practicing the different combination of words that you see and try to make them natural for you so that you can recognize that it's like that. And you can try to identify the 3 groups that I told you at least. Remember, in infinitive, when you ask for something first, right? I want you to help me, please. Okay, so I'm asking you, I want you to help me, please, Danitza. I need you to help me. Okay, so need in object and infinitive. The second group can be causative verbs. You're not asking, you're directly establishing the relationship and what you cause directly on another person, right? I made you, help me with that. Okay, so I'm not asking anything. I'm establishing what's the relationship with a verb, right? I always make you complete all those assignments. All right, but again, I'm not asking, I'm just describing that. In that case, I use base form or infinitive with get and so on. And you use the base form if you have these suggestions or recommendations, right? Or pieces of advice that are very strong. In that case, you have to use the base form. Those are the 3 that have sense. I believe that the rest of them, then it's going to be just you practicing and memorizing some lists. All right, but if you get to find something very specific, you can also let me know, and I'm going to try to help you out with that. All right?
Okay. Thank
Good. No, you're welcome. There you go. Let's try then to take a look briefly at, instead of the lesson, because that was to finish. Remember, we're going to try to cover also something extra. The colon. We know how to use the colon, but I want to be sure by writing the examples, because after this we have to go to transitional words as well. And again, remember, this is part of something extra but I really want this to be clear so that you are prepared for any writing exercise. I know that you took a look at this presentation, and I know that actually the column for you is going to be very easy because this is the one that follows almost Spanish in every way, all right, column, except for the last one, I believe. But we only have three main ways that are detailed over here. Yes, we're going to read them briefly, and we're going to try to write examples with the three of them. Okay, let's read this, please, Danitza. This slide.
Okay. Going to use a column to introduce an idea or series of nuances, five major senses. Five, one, smell, taste, and touch. At the beginning of the column, don't forget to apply punctuation rules for the columns.
Great. Okay, so this is very simple, same as Spanish, right? Remember, one mistake over here is that people want to use the colon after a verb, right? For example, they say, I need colon, and they say this, 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 and that. But no, we don't use the colon like that, right? We don't use it after verbs. We use it after a presentation of what we are going to describe, right? Bolivia has 9 major cities, colon, right? The body has these important muscles, right, for movement, colon, and you describe that. Okay, so you have to introduce what, and you have to introduce the number of things optionally that you're going to describe, right? But don't set the colon after a verb. That's not going to be grammatically correct. All right, so the first one, very, very easy, same as we do in Spanish. Now, this is what we've been practicing, Danitza, right? But we've been using the dash, but I also showed you that the colon is the main usage. Let's read this as well, please. This is also something we're going to practice.
Okay. To separate independent clauses when the second clause sentence illustrates, explains, paraphrases, or expands on the first. Margot realized that her worst fears was coming true. Person was being something.
Okay. And here, so before the last part, remember, please, that it's not always going to be a clause. Here, they only describe a clause. I don't know why, but it can be anything. It can be a word. It can be a phrase, all right, after the colon. But the idea is that that word, that phrase, that clause helps only, all right, to clarify something that is unclear in this first independent clause, right? Something that is unclear is this, right? Her worst fear, all right? And here we clarify what it is. Here, you can say also this as a phrase, her son being sent to war. If you say that without the verb to be, that's going to be a type of phrase because that's incomplete now. It doesn't have a verb, right? Her son being sent to war is her worst fear, but you don't say is her worst fear, right? You only say her son being sent to war. That's her worst fear, okay? So that's why, again, I'm telling you that not only independent clauses, but you can have phrases and you can have words. Remember the example with the dash at the end, right? We say Disneyland, and only Disneyland is the last illustration, explanation. It's not paraphrasing, of course, but it's related to something unclear from the first part. Okay, but again, it says right at the end, the information after the colon explains Martha's fear in the form of an independent clause. But once again, not only independent clauses. So I don't know if you have questions about this one. This one tends to be the, I don't know, the confused usage of colon. Let me know, please, Danitza.
Um, I don't have questions because I can imagine.
Okay,
Sorry.
because what? I couldn't hear. One more time, please,
I,
Danitza.
I can't imagine right now an example of words, specific
Okay,
words or specific phrases. So I right now I don't have.
All right. Again, you're going to write examples now. If you get to have travels over there, you're going to let me know. Okay, but let's go to the next one. Then we're going to have until 10, okay, 7 minutes to write the examples. So let's take advantage of that time. Let's read this and we go to the example.
Okay. To start a favorite section or direct speech, you can also use a comma. The principal said you have to be on time. Rules rules with quotation marks for direct speech or citation start with capital letter. The quotation mark at the end of the citation, direct speech has to be by the quotation mark. Yes. So,
There you go, right? So these are the three main ways to use a colon. You have introducing a list of items, giving a conclusion after something that is unclear to illustrate, explain, paraphrase, or expand on the first idea. That can be a clause, in other words, it can be a complete idea, it can be a phrase, in other words, an incomplete idea, or it can be a word, just a term. All right. And finally, something that we know, right? Indirect speech with colon, quotation mark, complete idea, punctuation mark, and quotation mark. All right. So with that in mind, let's write please 3 examples in the time that we have left, Danitza. Let's go to our document and write 1 example per category for the colon. We're going to see how it goes. All right, try to start with the ones that are, well, actually try to start in the order that you want, and we're going to check what you get to write until 10:10. Okay, so we have 6 minutes, please.
okay.
Good. Okay, so we're going to see how it went. That's going to be the thing we check. And the rest of it, it can be done then by, all right, by the next class. But let's read what we got, please. That
So, uh, before I leave my home, I always check essential things in my handbag: keys, cell phone, credentials, and AirPods.
good. And just by speaking, you can try tell me the second one. All right, then you're going to write it and the one that is missing. But this is good. All right. Before I leave my home, right, I always check essential. But remember, if essential is used as adjective, adjectives are not numbered, right? They are not singular or plural, right? So that's why it's going to be exactly, it's not going to be numbered, all right? Things in my handbag: keys, cell phone, credentials, and AirPods. Okay, good. Now, let's try to finish just by speaking the second one. What can you tell me? You tell me the idea, colon, and what's the clarification. What do you say? What could it be?
Um,
It doesn't matter if it's similar to the example, right? For practicing, it is good. But for your writing, for Friday, you're going to write something different. But what do you say?
mm, okay. I don't know. It's going to sounds good. But maybe it was something like my biggest fear is um like um forget my keys and don't have um any key to close my door. What?
All right. In that case, but then you're telling me directly what's your biggest fear, right? But for number two, if you want to work in the order that you were working with me, number two has to be unclear. First, you have to tell me something that is not clear at all, right? And then you set the semicolon, or sorry, the colon to tell me what's that. For example, right, you can say, my biggest fear, right, came true yesterday, or my biggest fear feels, right, I don't know, but you tell something about it, but you don't tell me what, right? The what is going to be after the colon. Okay, and I can give you one example. It's similar to the examples that I gave you before. Remember, right? Yesterday, my dream, right? My long lasted, or my long desired dream came true. Okay, similar to your example. Colon, no, I'm going to explain my long desired dream. And I can say, in what could it be? It can be a complete sentence, right? She talked to me. Or I can say, right, um, going to a place, or right, going to New York, for example, or just a word, right? But in this case, a word is going to sound weird. But to those two examples, right? She talked to me, a clause, or going to New York, a phrase. That's the example for my biggest or my long desired dream. Here, you can tell me something similar. What do you say? What is something unclear that you can tell me? And then after the colon, you clarify that. But first, you have to give me one complete idea with something unclear in that complete idea. What do you say?
Uh, I didn't finish my idea the first time. But yes, I was trying to say something like my biggest fear is now is forget my keys and not be able to close the door. And I don't know, colon and something like um, who knows, this is going to happen. Is going to happen today because I forgot my keys.
But
I
what
don't know.
happens there, what happens there is that actually you're giving another idea that is not clarifying actually something that is unclear, because it's something that you're adding, uh-huh, but it's not illustrating, right? It's not illustrating, it's not explaining. Yes, to you, you're explaining why you're saying that, but it's not directly explaining something unclear, because in your idea, actually, you are saying everything clearly, and your explanation is just the reason why you are saying that. All right, but the colon is not going to mention why we are saying that directly. Okay, it's going to be only to illustrate, paraphrase, or explain something that there is unclear. But again, if you say directly, right, my biggest fear is losing my key, let's say, right, and not being able to enter home at night. Let's say that that's your biggest fear. There, we would say, right, that everything is clear in a certain way. There's not anything that we can state as something unclear. So we don't use the colon. Now you can give an explanation as you were giving, but that's not going to need a colon. That can be with a semicolon, for example, right? That you are saying that because yesterday you lost your key, right? Or something like that. But that's an extra explanation, but it's not again necessary to clarify something that is in that specific part. All right. So once again, in other words, it has to be to clarify, explain, or illustrate something specific in that part. And usually that element that you are adding is going to be shorter because again, if you analyze your idea, the next part is going to be perhaps as long as your previous idea because you're stating something new, clarifying not something unclear for you from your sentence, just clarifying something that you believe that you want to clarify, and it's justifying why you are saying that sentence, right? But that's not going to be for the call. That can be something else with a period or with a semicolon. That is going to be again another idea. But I don't know if you have questions about that. All right, right now we're going to finish, but I want you to think then for Friday. Uh, it can be just one, but again, this is the one that I also wanted you to practice before, and this is the one that we're also missing. And then it's as the one with the semicolon, right? I believe the semicolon is clear. You only have one more to reinforce that, but this second one has to be clear. All right, something very unclear that is going to be clarified after the colon. But again, let me know if you have questions so that you know what to work on for Friday. Let me know, please.
I don't like colons.
Yeah,
Ah,
it's again, and you don't have to use it, right? But it's the way, it's one way of using it, and actually, it's going to again make your writing richer. And if you use this way of using colon, is going to be very interesting. Okay, but again, take it as a conclusion, as your last opportunity, and Anita, to clarify something to your reader, to someone that is going to read your example. Okay, not to justify why you are saying what you're saying. Okay, not to justify anything, just to clarify something that directly is not read. Just by reading your sentence, something feels that is incomplete, then it is a good idea to use the comma.
mm, okay.
Okay, not to justify. Remember, right? Not to justify, just to illustrate, to paraphrase briefly or to explain, but you need to have something that is unclear, a word that is unclear, a phrase that is unclear. Not the entire idea, just something that is unclear. Try to do it. On Friday, we're going to see how it goes then. I don't know if you have any last questions. With this, we're finishing today. On Friday, we continue working with the next lesson. We check these examples, the one with the semicolon that I believe that you get very well now. This one that is going to be important. And you're missing one more, right? The last one that is the direct speech or the citation. Also work with that one, please, and we check those three examples in total. One with semicolon, this one with colon, and the direct speech also with colon. And if this is clear with the colon, the second example, also the dash is going to be clear, right? Because the second usage of the dash is this second usage of the colon. All right, but again, this being clear, we are going to be allowed to go to the transitional words and phrases, and then we're going to go to the essay and the structure that it has. But that's it again. Let me know any last ideas, please, as I'm sharing the poll with you. Danita, you got it over there.
I don't have any other ideas.
Uh-huh. You practice, and on Friday you let me know all the questions that you might have for what you did.
Yes, I also use Moral um, to try to visualize all the combinations of dashes, colons, and semicolons. No, I have problems with colons.
Yes, it's these details. This is the hardest. In colon, I believe this is the one that brings more confusion to anybody. The two hardest ways to use the punctuation marks, and is it just to finish, is the semicolon in the way you were practicing with fanboys, and this use of colon for clarifications. If you get these two ideas again, then you know that you have the hardest ways of using punctuation marks. The rest of them is just repeating everything that we've been practicing: introductory phrases, interrupters, list of items, all right, dividing two complete ideas. And again, everything is repetitive, and you work on that over and over and over again. The dash just to replace sometimes the comma, to replace the colon. But once again, if you get this colon idea clear and that semicolon, then you're not going to have any difficulties with punctuation. All right, so on Friday, please, you're going to let me know how it went, and we keep working.
Okay,
All right, have a good night. See you on Friday then.
see you Friday.
Bye bye. Take care.
Bye.